So what you can see leaving the boathouse now is the Shannon class lifeboat. It's the most modern in the RNLI's fleet. This is a relief lifeboat, number 7. It's got a nice name, Reg. I don't quite know who Reg was, but obviously very grateful for his legacy. As the boat passes in front of you, if you notice the back of the boat, or the stern as we call it, you'll notice there are no propellers. That's because this is safely protected from any weather conditions. So the rig you see being sent down the beach now is known as the SLAR, or the Shannon Launch and Recovery System. Love you! It's a highly complex piece of kit, which was actually developed by a firm in military applications. Both the tracks on the tractor and also the carriage are hydraulically driven, and that enables us to operate on a shingle beach that we're operating on here. As you can see, the coxswain is in the upper steering position, known as the flying bridge, and he is preparing with the head launcher the optimum position for the lifeboat to launch. Held off, and away she goes. As the boat hits the water, the coxswain will engage forward propulsion. As I said earlier, this is an all-weather lifeboat, and that means it will operate in all weathers. The only restriction really is on launch and recovery, but with the propellers. This lifeboat This boat is capable of actually stopping in a boat and a half's length from full speed by throwing the propulsion system into its stern, which has been demonstrated now. And that's obviously very handy if you need to stop quickly for any reason. For example, if you're going alongside a vessel and a wave captures you by surprise. The boat's now turning in a 360 degrees, again something that's impossible for a propeller-driven craft, and that's done by the skillful manipulations of the throttles and the throttles and the buckets and the jets. Again, the manoeuvrability is a major advance in life-saving technology. The coxswain of the lifeboat has been instructed by the helicopter crew to proceed at a certain direction and a certain speed, and the helicopter will then suspend the winchy under the helicopter and then manoeuvre into position. Suspended below. Some of you with better eyesight than me may have seen that earlier. The winchman will have suspended below him a long wire that is trailed into the sea that discharges the static electricity from the helicopter, and nobody's allowed to touch the winchman until the winchman touches the boat to discharge any inherent static that may still be there. On the bow you can see, if you look very closely, there's a crewman, and there's a system of flags that we use. The crewman will be holding a green flag up, indicating to the pilot that all is well. And then if anything should happen, where they need to cease operations urgently, will raise a red flag. As you can appreciate, when you're on the boat, the downdraft from the helicopter rotors is quite dramatic. As you can see, the spray is being blown up. So most of the communication that goes on the deck is done by hand signal. So the helicopters are crew of three. The pilot, the winch operator and the actual winchman. And then workers that are well-oiled team. So that's the first transfer completed. You can see when we start operating with the D-class lifeboat that the technique's slightly different. And this is because of the downdraft of the helicopter, which can actually blow the D-class lifeboat off board. And so there's a set way of approaching that procedure. The 10 knots she was doing earlier. She truly is a magnificent boat. As I said earlier, the crew have massive confidence in her and her abilities. And she's been out in some fairly tasty weather, around the coast since it's been brought into service. You can see the winchman is using his hand signals. The winch operator who will be in the door of the aircraft looking at who's now on board. There's a nice view of the lifeboat and the helicopter, nice and close and sure. Getting the wave from the windscreen, giving a nice wave back. Now going to do a static lift, I think, where the lifeboat is sitting dead in the water, and he'll formate onto the lifeboat to lift the winchman. The flying skills of these guys never fail to impress, do they? When they're working up against cliff faces and things like that with mountain rescue, some of the stuff they do, in terms of having the rotor blades just a couple of metres away from stuff is amazing. We do work with a whole host of other agencies, of course. I mentioned the Coastguard. We also work with mountain rescue people who come and assist on searches and things around the coast, the local police, the ambulance, and of course the very important air ambulance. Life-saving rather than at a level direction. So you can see the winch wires being lowered down now. The pilot and the winch operator working together to locate the wire onto the boat. Delicate stuff. And off he goes. A large proportion of the lifeboat crew are also very highly trained in what we call casualty care. It's above the level of the normal first aid qualifications, because we're obviously dealing with people in isolated situations where we don't have immediate recourse to medical facilities, so we carry. Okay, so now you can see the winch operator has been suspended below the helicopter, and the lifeboat is making position underneath him. There's a certain way that the boat will come in to avoid the downdraft. You'll see it's off to the side, avoiding the downdraft. And we come in at the 3 o'clock position as he's done. And hey presto. It really does take high levels of skill and precision to be able to undertake that manoeuvre. And that is very well executed indeed. Now we'll do the same thing down in reverse. The helm has a lot to put up with. He's got, well done. He's got the, obviously the wind and the tide and the power of the engine and the downdraft of the helicopter, all to consider as he takes up position. But he had employed the RNLI's advice about float to survive and to keep himself safe awaiting the arrival of the lifeboat. Our water safety people also patrol the West Shore these days, and as the tide is flooding, they're advising people to vacate the sandbanks, which are very, very perilous over there on the West Shore. So now we've got the 3 assets parading in front of us. So give them all a wave, and a round of applause if you can. They very much appreciate the support we've had. Lifeboat, letting the families.